Hi guys, some of you may be members of the INAV Fixed Wing group on Facebook. If you are, you may also be aware that there's a OpenTX model that we've been doing for a while to help new people get into OpenTX quickly and get them up flying. So very recently we launched a new Pro model which has extra features for waypoint missions, that sort of thing, and also in-flight tuning. So what I'm going to do today is show how to install it on the transmitter, how to get it on the flight controller and get everything working. So let's get over to the desktop, the workbench, get it installed and get flying. So before I get started on this, I just want to say, if there are any of you guys who are native German speakers, my friend Mark Hoffman has also done a video on this on his channel in German. So what I'll do is I'll put a link in the description so you can go check out his video. However, before you go off, I am going to add a section that he may not have on setting your arming switch. So I'll put that down in the chapters so you can go straight to that section to cover that. But yeah, I'll put a link to Mark's video. So the first thing obviously that we need to do is download this model. Where you can get it from is the INAV Fixed Wing Group website. If you go into guides, INAV Fixed Wing Group OpenTX models, and we have the standard version and the Pro version. So we're going to go to Pro, and then you just go download. I'll stick on desktop. So this page here does actually have instructions on how to install everything. It's got notes on INAV 2.6 because this is actually made for 2.6. It does work on 2.5, and by the time you see this video, 2.6 will probably be out. So there's quite a bit of information on there. There's the supported transmitters. There's the Horus, both X10, X12. Most of the jumpers, or all the jumpers above T16 and above, Radio Master TX16S, FreeSky Tyrannus from QX7 upwards, so that's the QX7 and the X9D. It doesn't support the X-Lite, it never will. It doesn't support the jumper T12, and it never will, because there are features on here that we just can't squeeze onto those radios. So it covers the features. It's got switch layouts, all this sort of stuff. The whole point, or one of the points with the Pro model as well, is that you can actually change things. So we have our flight mode switches that you can see here, which at the moment, this is how it comes as default. So we have an arming switch, we have an OSD switch with the tuning, we have a multifunction switch, which is pretty useful. And then we have our flight modes. So you notice we have 3D cruise, angle, acro, waypoint missions, manual, position hold, and return to home. You can change any of these flight modes, but what you can't change is the order. So as it stands, there's an order to which flight modes will take priority. So the order will always remain this. So return to home at the top, manual, position hold, waypoint mission, and then the 3D cruise switch. So whatever you have set on this switch, it won't work unless these two are switched off. So we would recommend that you don't change manual or return to home, just because they're useful modes if you have an issue or a problem. So if you need to return to home, you can return to home, but if you have a problem with tune, you can put it in manual and fly it back manually. So we recommend you don't change those at all and keep those in that priority order. But anything else you can change. So I don't know, if you don't like angle, you could put horizon there. You can change it to whatever you want, but just be aware that this order here is the order of priority. And again, don't change those two. So the other thing I briefly went over was the multifunction switch. So this was in the original model. It's been enhanced in this, and we'll see more on that later. And the cool things is the save configuration option, or to load a waypoint mission. You don't have to basically remember stick commands anymore. So this model is based on the INAV LUA script, or sorry, it's not based on it, but it uses it. So we have some CLI commands for the Lua scripts, and it also says to go through the Lua script or the Lua installation to get that set up with your transmitter. I won't be covering the Lua script installation in this video, but I'll be doing another video on it in the future. But if you just follow the instructions on their website, it's really good. So that's the link to the Lua script, and the full instructions are there. But the CLI commands that you need, we've put there. So the other CLI commands are going to be dependent on your INAV version. So we have for 2.5 and then we have 2.6 onwards. If in the future something else comes along with more functionality, we'll add the Lua script, or sorry, the CLI commands for that. And also there's some release notes for what has happened in previous versions. So if you are on 2.5 and you do go to 2.6, there is also this instructional code here of what you need to do once you get onto 2.6. But basically it's running this CLI script and then changing one global variable, but it's all covered in this manual. So the first thing we need to do is install the model onto our transmitter. And the way we're going to do this is with OpenTX Companion. I'm not going to go through the process of installing Companion because, again, this is a pro level model, so you should have experience in doing a lot of this stuff already. You don't need babying through it. So what I'm going to do is just plug in a USB to the transmitter, and I'll be back in Companion shortly. First, extract the zip file. So we'll just extract it to the desktop. So there we have it. And what we're going to do is first of all copy the sound pack over onto the transmitter. So I'll open up Windows Explorer, and what you'll have is a USB drive that is on your transmitter. So we'll just go into Sounds, EN, and then we just want this one here. So we have the sound pack, which at this current version is 2.0.1. Go in Sounds, EN, and then copy that into your transmitter. So if you want to know what the sounds are, there's also a text file. So I'll bring up the file name that it is on the transmitter, and then what it actually means in English. The ones with the star just mean that they're new in this release. So there's extra things on there that you may want to use if you've got pan and tilt, for example. There's a pan and tilt enabled on the camera locked. There's for main and second camera. There's a few options on there if you want to use them. So that's a sound pack installed. So now that we have our sound pack installed, we need to jump back into Companion. And the first thing that we're going to do is get our radio settings and models. So what I'm going to do is close some of these down. And mine's actually in testing. So this is my current test version. So what I will do is delete it. So we're starting from scratch. But what I'm going to do now is show you the update process if you want to put a newer version on in the future. So what I'm going to do is go in here, and what I'm going to take note of is the receiver number. So receiver 25. So if I put that back on the new model, it should all just work. So you just take note of that and that. So what I'll do is I'll delete that. And now what we need to do is open up the new model. So there we go. This one's for the X10S, but you basically just choose the correct version for your transmitter. And then what you do is just drag it into where you want it. If you overwrite, if you do that, it will overwrite, but we just want to insert it. And what we can also then do is click in and use our internal as access, number 25, and then that should all just work. So now what we need to do is transfer that back to the transmitter. So what I would actually do is recommend closing the one from the model pack, just to make sure you have your transmitter selected, because I'm sure other people have done it. I've certainly done it in the past where I've had the wrong window selected and written it back to the transmitter, and you lose all your models. So don't close your actual transmitter down until you know everything's okay. But what we're going to do, if it's the only one there, it can't fail. So we're just going to click this button to write it back to the transmitter. So that's all done. So now what we're going to do is head over to the transmitter and see what's happening on there. Okay, so we're on the transmitter. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the INAV Fixed Wing Group Pro model. You can of course rename this to whatever you want.
Switch warning.
So let's get our switches in order. Right, so if you get failsafe not set, so what we're just going to do is set this to, where are we? Now you can use either hold or no pulses. Either will work absolutely fine. I'm going to set it to hold, and then that's everything done with the receiver. Obviously, if you're doing this from scratch, you'll need to register and bind, or just bind, depending on what your transmitter system is. But we won't cover that in this video. So that's everything done on here. But what we'll do is have a quick look at the actual switches. So what you have is an arming switch. Actually, I don't know if I've got sound on. And as you just heard, there is a sound on the arm, but I'll get into that later. It's just for testing. So you have your basic flight mode switch here, which is acro, angle, and cruise by default. You have another mode switch here, which is manual and waypoint mission by default. And then finally you have position hold and return to home by default. This switch here covers your auto tuning. So you have auto tune and auto trim. What I will do is I'll boost the sound up a little bit just so.
Auto tune.
That's better. So yeah, you have auto tune, auto trim on this. You have the multifunction here, which at the moment I don't actually know if it's armed or disarmed.
Timer reset.
Right, so it's only armed. It's armed at the moment, so all you get is timer reset as an option. You can put a flight timer on the screen if you wish.
Timer reset.
But it will be a flight timer. So
switch into sound position.
So as you heard, now we're now disarmed, which is towards me. That's the default layout, but we will get into it if you want to change that very, very shortly. But now, because we're disarmed, I can show you what other multifunction things. You just hold it in and let go when you hear the option you want.
Timer reset. OSD menu. Save. Load mission.
So that would load a waypoint mission that's stored in the EEPROM. The final thing is this, which will change your OSD.
Manual tuning.
And the last position is manual tuning. So when you enter manual tuning, these two trims here go from being actual trims into being adjustments. So
manual tuning off.
This position,
trim center.
They do just work as regular trim. So if you have a plane with you can manually trim it if you wish.
Manual tuning.
But as soon as you put it into the manual tuning, these are no longer trims. In the initial position, you can still do auto trim and auto tune.
Auto tune.
But this button here changes what you want to adjust. And as soon as you go into the first adjustment, you can't actually do auto trim or auto tune. So you'll get a warning.
Auto tuning cannot be used in the manual tuning mode.
It's the same warning whether you do auto trim or auto tune. But as soon as you switch the adjustment back off, you can go through. But we'll have a look at the adjustments later. I'll get the OSD up. So the first thing that people are probably going to want to know how to do is how to change the arm switch, because people want it in different positions, which is absolutely fine. So as you hear,
switch in arm position, switch into sound position.
We have very specific sound files, so you know where the transmitter thinks the switch is. So at the moment, it's towards me is disarmed,
switch in arm position.
Away from me is armed. If you want to change it, you go in the model menu and go to your inputs, go to the arm, hold it, enter, and in the weight, you just change that to negative. So if it's positive, you change it to negative. If you want it back the other way, you change it back to positive. So now away from me is disarmed.
Switch in armed position.
Towards me is armed. And you'll hear that this will now only just do the timer reset until you disarm it.
Position.
The only other thing that you then need to do is, we can come out of here. If we go back, all you need to do on this model setup is change the switch position for S to F. The easiest way to do it is put all these in the default positions, which is centered, and then just hold it, and that's it set. Oh, sorry. So you just hold it down, and that's it then set.
Switch in armed position. Switch in disarmed position.
So again, just to go over it, and also because I prefer it the other way around anyway. To change the arm switch, you just edit, invert the weight. So
switch in arm position. Switch in disarm position.
Disarm it. Go to the switch positions. Just hold the button down, and that will store the default positions. Again, when you do that, you want all these centered. Actually, SA doesn't matter where it is, but B, C, and D all need to be centered, and the arm switch in the disarm position. So the final thing that we want to do is
switch in arm position, switch in disarm position.
Is get rid of that. So what we're going to do, we'll go to the special functions, just hold down on the top two and clear. So now your arm switch is set, and you haven't got those sounds. So that's everything done on the transmitter. So now what we're going to do is have a look at the flight controller and getting everything on there. All right, so we've just switched things around. We've got the desktop down here, and up here we've got the website again. So what you need to do is choose which version of INAV you're using, and then what we're going to do is copy and paste the CLI code. Now, one thing that you'll need to do is the Lua script CLI is separate to the main CLI. So what we'll do is I'll copy that, just connect to INAV, and then what we're going to do is just run those two Lua scripts, or sorry, CLI scripts. So first I'm just doing the Lua script CLI, and while that's rebooting, we'll just grab the actual OpenTX model CLI, and what this will set pretty much everything up for us with regards to what's needed for the OpenTX model. So just copy that back in the CLI and paste that in. So I will say that before we get into this, it won't do any of your flight controller setup, so you'll need to do your calibration, your mixer, and all that yourself. This is purely for the flight modes, the tuning OSD, and the adjustments. So you'll need to actually get all your stuff set up. So what you'll see, if I go into the modes, channel 5 is your arming switch. So no matter which way round you have it on the transmitter, it will always be so that this position here is armed. So if you suffer from the free sky glitch, it will not disarm in flight. So that is one thing that we made sure happened. So the arm, no matter which way it is on the transmitter, will always be here. Channel 6 is all your flight modes, and they're all set up for you. Channel 8 is the auto trim and auto tune. And then channel 7 is the OSD. So the very
manual tuning off.
The very bottom position is OSD off. Then we have alternate. The default OSD is in this position here. Alt OSD 1, Alt OSD 2, and then you'll see it jump into that
manual
one,
tuning,
which is Alt OSD 3. So if we go into OSDs, all you'll need to set up your first few OSDs. So the default layout, alternate 1 and alternate 2, you can do whatever you want with those. We recommend putting your GPS coordinates in default layout, because if you fail safe, it will jump to the default layout. So if you do that, you've got your OS or your GPS coordinates, so you can go back through your goggle footage and find it if you need to. Hopefully you don't. But if we go to alternate 3, this is the tuning OSD. So all these parameters here, as I say, this is set up for 2.6, and all these parameters here are adjustable, or they will be when the release comes out. I think there was a problem with TPA, but it will be sorted out. So one thing you'll need to do is update your font, but then for default layout 1 and layout 2, you can do whatever you like. And if we have a look in the adjustments, you'll see this is all set up already for you. So we have channel 10 is the yaw, which actually changed it, and channel 9 is the thing to actually change the adjustment. And you'll see we've got quite a few in here. Yeah, sorry, there's a bug which is in my 2.6, but in the release it should be fixed. So these here are the TPA adjustments. So we have in 2.6 there's actually 20 adjustment slots, and we're using 19 of them. So that is the adjustments part. So as I say, there's not really anything you need to do with regards to the OpenTX model. In INAV, it's just getting it set up for your plane itself. So what I will do is, at the moment, this is running thinking you're on 2.5. We're on 2.6. I'll show you in the transmitter now how to get the full adjustments, because if I go up the adjustments, you'll see it will stop. And obviously we have more adjustments to go. What we need to do is, the instructions are on the web page, but I'll show you in this bit. So to change that, again, we just go in the model menu, and we're going to page through until we get to our global variables. You hold down to edit, and what we're going to do is change this 20 to 90. If you add an extra one at the bottom and want to adjust it, then adjust it up to 100. But with the 19 steps that we've got, we want to set it to 90. So that's it done. If we go back, we can now see that it's going to go all the way over to here, but it won't go past that 20th step. So if you want to add an extra one in on channel 9, you can do that, but just change it to 100 in the global variable. So the last thing we can take a quick look at is the OSD itself. So as I said,
tuning off.
The first position is no OSD. Then you have the default, auxiliary 1, auxiliary 2,
manual tuning,
and auxiliary 3, which is the manual tuning. So what you can see here, if I click up, it's changing the parameters. You'll notice this is 2.6, so feed forward actually can change. And to update the value, you just use your yaw. So that's the cruise throttle there. So what you also need to be mindful of is, once you've changed these values, as soon as you restart your flight controller, they'll go back to how they were before. So
manual tuning off.
What you need to do is actually save them. So we're in. So you need to disarm, which should be there.
Timer reset. OSD menu. Save.
So that will save your settings. So next time you restart,
manual tuning,
like your cruise throttle should be the same. Again, you also heard there's the OSD menu.
Timer reset. OSD menu,
which allows you to go in and change things on your flight controller at the field. So I think that's all we really need to cover. This gets everything up and running as far as the transmitter model goes. As I say, the flight controller stuff, getting it working with your plane, is all down to you. That's how to install the model, how to reverse the throttle, how to install everything on INAV, and how the OSD menu works. and how the other bits and pieces work. So I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down, but please leave in the description what I can do to make this better and why you gave it a thumbs down. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It will get these videos out to more people to help them in the hobby. So thank you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.